Watch your sharpest friends slowly fade out of your life, and you'll see this exact pattern. There's a person, clever, capable, the one who always seemed to understand things faster than everyone else. And over the years, they just thin out of the social world. They stop showing up. They cancel more. The group chats go quiet on their end. They're not in crisis. They're not depressed. Nothing is obviously wrong. They've simply, slowly, drifted out of everyone's life until one day you realize you haven't really seen them in months. Everyone assumes it's sad, lonely, a problem to fix. But there's a study, more than 15,000 people in it, that points to something almost nobody wants to believe. For the highly intelligent, that disappearing act might be making them happier, not sadder. So let's figure out what's actually going on, because the reason the smartest people vanish is stranger and more logical than it looks. Start with that study, because it flips the whole thing on its head. In 2016, two psychologists, Norman Lee and Satoshi Kanazawa, published research in the British Journal of Psychology using survey data from more than 15,000 adults. They were chasing a simple question: what actually makes people satisfied with their lives? And for almost everyone, they found exactly what you'd expect. The more often people socialized with friends, the happier they reported being. Friendship makes people happy. Old news. But then they split the data by intelligence, and for one group, the pattern didn't just weaken, it reversed. Among the most intelligent people, socializing with friends more often predicted lower life satisfaction. Read that again. For the highly intelligent, more time with friends went hand in hand with being less happy. They are, on average, the one group of humans who feel better with less socializing. So when they slowly disappear, they may not be malfunctioning at all. They may be quietly following their own happiness. But that only deepens the mystery. Why would intelligence, of all things, flip one of the most basic human rules, that we need each other? To answer that, the researchers reached back hundreds of thousands of years to something they call the savannah theory of happiness. Here's the idea. Your brain did not evolve for the world you live in. It evolved on the African savannah, in small bands of maybe 150 people, where your survival depended entirely on your friendships and alliances, for hunting, for food, for protection, for raising your children. In that world, being surrounded by your people wasn't a nice to have. It was life or death. So evolution burned a deep instinct into the human brain. Being near your allies feels good. Being isolated feels dangerous. That instinct still runs inside all of us. It's why loneliness hurts. But here's the theory's core claim. More intelligent people are, by definition, better at one specific thing, adapting to situations their ancestors never faced. And a modern life without a constant circle of friends is exactly that kind of evolutionarily novel situation. So highly intelligent people can, in effect, override the ancient programming. The alarm that screams, "You need the group to survive," simply has less grip on them. Everyone else is still, on some level, obeying a savannah that no longer exists. The intelligent are just quietly able to ignore it. So that's why they can pull away without it wrecking them. But it doesn't yet explain why they'd want to. And this is where it stops being an abstract theory and starts being about the actual texture of a smart person's day. Because friendship has a cost nobody likes to talk about, and intelligent people tend to notice it first. Friendship is staggeringly expensive in time. There's a well-known idea from anthropologist Robin Dunbar. The human brain can only really maintain about 150 stable relationships, and only a tiny handful of genuinely close ones. And the bottleneck is time. Researchers who studied this put hard numbers on it. It takes something like 40 to 60 hours of shared time to turn an acquaintance into a casual friend, around 100 hours to become real friends, and over 200 hours to become someone's close friend. Friendship isn't free. It's one of the most time-expensive things a human being does. Now watch the collision. Highly intelligent people very often have a powerful pull towards something else, a deep interest, a craft, a problem, a project they want to master. And mastery carries its own brutal price tag. The research on world-class expertise, going back to the psychologist Anders Ericsson, found that becoming truly excellent at something demands thousands of hours of what he called deliberate practice. And in its original definition, that practice was solitary, focused, alone. So the intelligent person gets caught between two enormous time debts, fighting over the same hours. The savannah says, spend your evenings with the group. The project says, spend them alone, going deeper. And for a mind wired to find its deepest satisfaction in mastery and ideas, the math starts to feel obvious. Every hour poured into small talk is an hour stolen from the thing that actually lights up their brain. So they choose, not out of arrogance, out of arithmetic. But there's a quieter, more human layer underneath all of this, and it's the one that actually stings. It isn't only about time. It's about the specific texture of a lot of ordinary socializing and how it lands on a mind that runs fast. For someone who thinks deeply, a lot of everyday conversation can feel thin, and not because the people are beneath them. That's the arrogant misreading. It's because their mind comes most alive in a different register. Ideas, patterns, the strange and the deep. And most casual social settings just aren't built for that. So they can sit in a room full of people and feel more alone than they do by themselves, performing a version of connection that never quite reaches the part of them that most wants to be met. Over time, that's exhausting in a way that's almost impossible to explain to someone who doesn't feel it. And solitude stops feeling like a punishment. It starts to feel like the one place they get to fully be themselves, no translation required. So they drift toward it, not because they hate people, but because being alone finally feels like relief instead of loss. Now, before this becomes a flattering story that smart people tell themselves to justify hiding, I have to be honest about the other side, because the science demands it. Choosing solitude is not the same as being fine without people, and that difference matters enormously, because there's a mountain of research showing that deep social connection is one of the strongest predictors of a long, healthy life. One major analysis pooling hundreds of thousands of people found that strong relationships were linked to a dramatically lower risk of early death, an effect on par with quitting smoking. Chronic loneliness, the painful kind, measurably shortens lives. So here's the knife edge the intelligent person is really standing on. Chosen solitude, time alone that feeds you, that you come back from, can be one of the healthiest, most productive things a human does. But it sits dangerously close to isolation, the slow erosion of every close tie until there's no one left to call. And the trap is this: a highly intelligent person can rationalize their way from the first into the second without ever noticing the line they crossed, because they are so good at explaining to themselves why they don't need anyone. Intelligence can talk you straight out of the very thing that keeps you alive. So let's put the whole picture back together. Highly intelligent people disappear from social life because they can. Their minds are better at silencing the ancient alarm that says isolation is death. They disappear because the time math is real. Friendship and mastery are both brutally expensive, and they'd rather go deep than go wide. And they disappear because solitude genuinely feels better to them, a relief from a social world that rarely meets them where they think. None of that is a malfunction. But the same intelligence that hands them this freedom is uniquely capable of walking them right past the point where solitude stops being a garden and quietly becomes a cage. So if you're the one who's been disappearing, the real question was never whether being alone makes you happy. It clearly can. The question is whether you could still call the people who matter if you wanted to. Whether the door you've been slowly closing is one you can still open. Solitude is a choice. Just make sure it stays one. If this hit close to home, tell me in the comments. Are you the one who disappeared, or did you watch it happen to someone? I read them all. Subscribe if you want more of the mind explained properly, and I'll see you in the next one.